This should not have to be said, but here we are. There are three types of formats for video games: physical, digital, and gas. Physical is DVD, Blu-ray. Digital is package. Gas is hosted on a server. On the flip side of that, TV shows and movies are basically identical to the formats for video games in physical, digital, and streaming. So for physical TV shows and movies, you got DVD, Blu-ray. Digital is multiple formats, but for this example, I'll just say AVI and MP4. And last is streaming, which is hosted on a server. And I'll get to why I brought in TV shows and movies in a minute. So with video games, real gamers, the label is more important now than ever, will claim that because they can touch the physical copy, that they can claim ownership of it. And they'll use that same reasoning, even though it is fallacy, to say that there's no ownership of a digital copy. And they basically let, for those gamers, because me, I've never had that mindset. I've always, whether it's physical or digital, I've always had the mindset of, yeah, I own a copy. And that is a key word, copy. Keep that in mind. I'll get to that in a minute too. But for the final format, that is the real where you can't claim ownership of that. And I'll get to that in a minute too. So with physical and digital, I will use Ghost of Tsushima and Grand Theft Auto 5 as examples here. Which is ironic because this whole controversy revolves around both PlayStation and Rockstar. A lot of people's letting Rockstar slide. The video game industry as a whole wants to eradicate physical copies. There are no good guys for this. The big name publishers, no, they want this. But with these icons of the disc and, in my case, an external hard drive, because the suits, they have all these loopholes in, quote, the user agreement, where they'll say, nah, you really don't own it. Again, it's subtle. This is subtle. They haven't blatantly came out and said, gamers, you don't own your games, because they know what happened. If they had came out and said that, what, 7th gen, the video game industry would have been finished. You gonna tell gamers we don't own the copies that we're buying from you? You crazy. So I'll call it a loophole. With my digital games for the PS4, I have all of them on a external hard drive. The external hard drive is tangible. It's an object I can touch. And it has all the digital games that I've bought on it, thus making it the equivalent of a physical copy of a single game. Now, back to, I brought up TV shows and movies. The whole thing with the WB and Studio Canal, PlayStation, quote, deleting the libraries because of licensing. For those people that believe they bought something that they, quote, owned, you didn't. You cannot own a stream. The same is true for video games. Coming back to this, gas games, you cannot claim ownership of them. We can claim ownership of both physical and digital. I just proved why in both cases. As far as copies go, and that again, that is the key word. We own copies of said games. And the zealot zombies and bots is gonna keep running around regurgitating the propaganda of PlayStation. This is how you know whether or not you're a fan of something. If you're a fan of something, you can critique it. You can point out when, in this case, a brand is doing something wrong. And the zealot zombies and bots will always say, you don't own the games that you buy. Okay, let's listen to a copyright lawyer about that.
Object is gone, your words don't travel with it. For 120 years, that was the deal. The work belongs to the author, the copy belongs to you. Everything this video is about, every used game, every library, every lent paperback lives in that gap.
So, you heard it right there. From a copyright lawyer. We own copies. And again, it goes back to, like I said, the jargon that they got in the quote user license agreement, where they're making it seem like we cannot claim ownership of a game because it infringes on copyright. They're two different things. We own copies of whatever games we buy. They do not infringe, or that does not infringe on the copyright. It's not saying that we created the game. We're the developers. We wrote the script. We came up with the source code. We made the assets. None of those things. I don't know any gamer that wants that. Why would we want to claim ownership of the copyright? We only own the copy. And with that copy, we can do walkthroughs, we can do hints and tips, we can break down mechanics. You know, pretty much run-of-the-mill stuff. We know what we can't do. We can't take and reverse engineer the source code or the assets and claim that we made the game. We can't burn copies and sell them. The whole thing about license, we're not a retailer. So you can't license us anything. We are, and a lot of people keep saying like, yo, we're not consumers. If you buy and use a game, you're both a customer and a consumer. They're basically interchangeable. And like I'm gonna go more in depth when I do the episode about this whole controversy. But that was the key point I wanted to drive home then. Is that we own copies. Don't let these zealot zombies and bots, don't let PlayStation get in your head. We own copies. It's not debatable. Now, everything that they say that digital copies are applies 100% to gas. Look around. Why do you think that the video game industry is pushing so hard for gas games? You pay to access those. The same what I just mentioned for streaming for TV shows and movies. You pay to access or watch those TV shows and movies. You did not pay for a download, which is what we do when we get digital copies of games. If you did not pay, if the TV shows and movies were not MP4s, you didn't get anything. You gave them free money. The same is true for the crew. For all the people that was screaming about Ubisoft taking it away from them. You either comprehend that or you don't. I mean, nothing else needs to be said about that. or nothing else needs to be said. Gas is what they're shooting for, long term. And like I said, I'll go more in depth when I do the full episode about this whole thing. As always, thanks for listening. Peace.